My girlfriend's parents tortured me and called me a fake human all because of my prosthetic leg. But then they found out how I lost my real leg, and now they won't even look me in the eye. I adjusted my prosthetic and rang the doorbell at Grace's parents' house, hoping they wouldn't write me off as not good enough just because of my fake leg. Her father, Robert, opened the door, and his eyes went straight to where my left leg should be, his face shifting to obvious disgust. Her mother, Janet, appeared behind him and actually recoiled when she saw my cane, stepping back like disability was contagious. Grace squeezed my hand, but Robert was already blocking the doorway, sarcastically asking if they needed to install a ramp, like they were running a nursing home. Janet ushered us into the living room where they'd removed all the comfortable chairs, leaving only a deep couch I'd struggled to get out of. Robert commented, "We were hoping Grace learned her lesson after her last ex, but apparently she has a type. Broken things she thinks she can fix." Grace's face went red, but before she could respond, Janet asked what I did for work. When I mentioned my disability benefits while I was in vocational training, Robert laughed, saying, "So you're a welfare queen. Our daughter is dating someone who steals our tax dollars to sit at home." Janet added that her hairdresser's son lost both legs and still managed to run a business, so what was my excuse for being a parasite? When Grace started to explain, I touched her arm and quietly said, "Let's just change the subject, it's fine," because I didn't want to get into the story about the IED. During dinner, Janet served everyone except me, saying she assumed I had someone who fed me at home. Robert cut my meat without asking, then moved my plate closer like I was a toddler in a high chair, narrating each action slowly and loudly. When I reached for my water, he grabbed my wrist and said, "Careful, that's crystal. Probably costs more than your monthly government check." Then turned to Grace and asked if she really wanted to spend her life as a caregiver. Robert started describing his friend's daughter, who'd married a man in a wheelchair, and how she'd become dead inside from the constant burden. Janet nodded vigorously, adding that Grace would end up changing his diapers by 40. And did she really want to waste her youth on someone who probably couldn't even get it up anymore? Then Janet leaned over and grabbed my face, turning it toward the light and examining me like livestock, saying my skin looked gray and asking if I had some terminal illness they should know about. Robert said, "Grace, remember when Princess Diana did charity work with landmine victims? That was nice of her, but she didn't take them home." When Grace told them to stop, Janet said she was being realistic about what happens when the novelty of playing nurse wears off and you're stuck with dead weight. Robert asked point blank how I'd lost my leg, and before I could deflect, he said, "Probably drunk driving or something equally stupid that you don't want to admit." I just said it was complicated and I'd rather not discuss it, while Janet speculated loudly that it was probably a drug deal gone wrong. She actually pulled Grace into the kitchen where I could still hear her saying, "He's going to be in a wheelchair within 5 years, then dead by 50, and you'll have wasted your best years." I struggled to stand up from the couch, and Robert filmed me with his phone, saying he was documenting what Grace would deal with every day. Janet returned and dumped my cane in the trash, saying, "Oops, thought that was garbage like everything else you brought into our home." Robert grabbed my prosthetic leg through my pants and yanked on it, asking if it was even real. He said, "Grace, sweetheart, you could have any man you want. Why are you settling for 3/4 of a person?" Janet added that she'd rather Grace be a lesbian. At least then they could lie to their friends about who she's dating. That's when the front door opened and someone called out, "Sorry, I'm late." A young man in his 20s walked into the dining room and stopped dead when he saw me. I recognized Ethan instantly, and my whole body started shaking. Me and Ethan had served in Iran together. "Oh my God," he whispered, his tears already falling. "This is him. This is the man who saved my life." He turned to his parents. "How did you find him? Did you invite him over to thank him personally?" He started explaining that I was the lieutenant who went back into the kill zone after the IED tore my leg off to save the lives of my brothers. I was the hero from the story he'd told them 1,000 times. Robert's phone crashed to the floor while Janet's hand flew to her mouth. "Have they been treating you well?" Ethan asked me in regards to his parents. Full story on the channel below.